Welcome to Wholesaling the Cool Way. I'm Mark Cool, and this is Jasper Cool, my son. On this podcast, we share real world insights, tools, and strategies to help you succeed in real estate investing. You get perspectives from two real estate investing business owners in one podcast every week. We cover wholesaling houses, vacant land, building business, and more. Let's kick things off with some inspiration and education. What's been sparking your growth this week, Jasper?
Yeah, I had a few good ones this week. One of them was the one I mentioned to you on we were texting earlier this week with Alex Ramosi talking about key man risk. And
Yeah,
I wish I'd wrote it down. I need to re-listen to that one today. But he gave so many great examples. And the most obvious one is within your own team, which is employees. And so, for example, if your sales department is made up of one person, then you have total key man risk. And so I'm thankful that I've grown my sales team
yeah,
because I definitely felt that. And it's like an anxiety, even if, like, let's say your team is completely happy, you're loving work with them, they're loving work with you. There's still that key man risk because, God forbid someone could always pass away, someone could get sick, someone could need to go out of town, for example. Even if they're completely happy with you, those things could still happen. And then in that case, you're right back in that role and you're probably losing sales in the short term because, you just lost your top or your only sales guy. So, thankfully now I have multiple salespeople, but then I was looking at the rest of my business and I was like, okay, I need to be too strong in every department at least, or else you have that key man risk. And I think that's also, especially when you and I are talking about growing self-managing business or yeah, just self-manage your business. If you don't have those two people in every department, then you're always like involved in some capacity because if you're the one like that it all falls back on. But if you have two managers in front of you, then the likelihood that things are falling back on you is very slim. But if you only have one manager per se, and maybe there's something that they can't handle, then who do they have to kind of collaborate with? Nobody. So they have to bring it back to you. And so I kind of thought through that on every single department. Like for example, you wouldn't hire one cold caller, right? You'd always hire multiple cold callers. But we kind of did, or at least I did the same thing with the rest of my business, where I just hired like one person. Like you said, just sometimes I just fill the gap sometimes, but then you feel that anxiety just going throughout the week or the month or the year where you're like, man, like this person's doing well, but what if? And so that was a great podcast. And he shared it on the employee side, but he shared it on the vendor side too, which in our capacity might be more related to like buyers. Like for example,
yeah,
if we had a very small buyers list, we're relying on, let's say, 10 or less buyers to buy all of our properties, then we have key man risk because what I noticed last year, 50% or more of my buyers just quit. They just stopped buying completely. And so if I had 50 buyers and 50% stop buying, then all of a sudden, my business would really, really take a huge dip. Thankfully, I have hundreds and over 1,000 buyers, but hundreds that are like active. And so I was able to withstand that, and switching to texting obviously helped me too. But that's I think that would be kind of like the vendor side of our business would be the buyers.
even if
And
you
then
even if you screw up a relationship with a buyer, right?
yeah,
Like a lawyer does something and mess up your transaction, or your transactions team messes up your transaction, they get mad at you and stop working with you.
yeah, definitely. And then the other thing I thought about with vendors is what we talk about quite a bit, which is closing attorneys. If you're closing all of your deals with one closing attorney, and we noticed this, I think it was 2023. I noticed this. I was closing a bunch of deals with one attorney, but I noticed at the beginning of that year there was like a change or something that went into effect for like 3 to 6 months, and basically I think about half of the attorneys in North Carolina stopped doing assignments of contract. And so if you were relying heavily on one attorney, for example, and I got bit by it, but if you were relying heavily on one attorney or one buyer, and all of a sudden this attorney is no longer closing an assignment or contract, now all of a sudden you have to double close all these properties. And for me that year, it cost me about $50,000 doing that. And so that was a major fail and a major key man risk because if I had had, three, five, maybe 10 attorneys just in my Rolodex where I could just, you're not going to sign the contract. Okay, I'll transfer the file over to this guy real quick, and it wouldn't have really affected me as much. Maybe I take the hit on a couple of deals, but instead I had like 10 to 15 properties that I was working on, all with one attorney, and half of them were like with one buyer. And so I kind of had to eat that, and it hurt. So going forward after that, I was like, okay, I'm never going to do that again. And so now I spread my deals out with a minimum of two closing attorneys, and right now we're working with three kind of on a regular basis. So but I don't want to go too deep into that because we're kind of just keeping things brief here. But that was a great podcast. So I'll try to find the link and maybe we could post it in the description. But I think
Okay.
it was one of his recent ones from this past week. I can see if I can find the title right now, but I think if you just look up Alex Ramone's pod and you'll probably find it.
Yeah.
Um,
Just on his regular podcast.
yeah, the game with Alex Ramosi.
Yeah.
Um, I want to say it was the episode 821, but I'll have to double check. So
Yeah. I can probably find it.
yeah, but yeah, so that's
That's
the
a
main
good
one
one.
for me. So I'll stop there because I kind of went in depth on that.
That's a good one to think about, though. Yeah, I've heard that in different forms from from different people. But if you put all your eggs in one basket, you can be in trouble.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. Well, I'll go with my inspiration. And let's see what I had written down here. Banana Ball. I'm still reading. I touched on that last podcast, so I won't go into that. But it's fun. If you haven't checked out Banana Ball or the Savannah Banana, it's very fun. On Writing Well, I'm still reading that. These are both actual books I'm reading. So On Writing Well is for people who want to get better at writing. If you want to do blogging or write copy or something, it's just about economy of writing. Really, really good stuff. And then I listened to How I Built This week, which I really love, but sometimes I get burned out on podcasts, so I don't listen to them for a while. But I listened to the founder of Viore Men's Clothing. It's not just men anymore, but he started as a men's athleisure brand. And it was a really cool story. And this guy actually left a business that um, he was doing really well in, that he had started, because it wasn't because he was more passionate about this one. And it was a big risk. And all his family and friends were like, this was like his fourth apparel business, and he hadn't been successful in the first three. Like he had done okay, but he hadn't, it wasn't anything he could sell or exit from. And so he kept going back to doing day jobs, and then he started this other business, which I can't remember what it was. It wasn't headhunting, but it's some kind of business services. And anyway, he put all his chips in the middle on Viore and went for it. And it's just a really cool story. I guess I won't go deep into it, but I guess my takeaways from it are: do something you really love, because then it doesn't feel like work, right? It's that old quote. If you do something you love, you never work a day in your life, right? And I think that even though his experience was that it was hard and they had a lot of challenges, raising money and all the different logistical challenges you have growing a business, because it was a passion project for him, he was able to stay the course. And then now it's valued way into the billions, and they couldn't get any venture capital when they started. And then now, after they made a few moves and got into some retail stores and stuff based on their quality and their connections, people start trying to throw money at them, VCs and some big bank in Japan and stuff. So that was cool just to see perseverance and a vision, win the day. So I recommend that podcast, How I Built This. If you haven't listened to it, it's really good. It's just entrepreneurs building businesses. And
Awesome.
yeah, I've got more stuff I could check in about, but like you said, we're trying to stay focused. So um, now we covered a little bit of what's inspiring us. Let's dive into the business check-in. How's your business this week, Jasper? What's going on under the hood? What are you dealing with victories and challenges and KPIs and stuff?
Yeah, let's jump into it. So, I guess I'll just do kind of an overview on this week. We were talking offline, but probably my biggest win this week was hiring a new team member and having her start this week. I mentioned to you, but she was working another job and she shared in her interview, which was one of the main reasons I hired her. But she just really wanted to be back in real estate. She has great experience working in real estate with a previous company, but they got hit hard, kind of like all of us did over the past couple of years, and they had to close down their business. And so they were
Yeah,
no
I've heard
longer.
that a lot of people close down businesses.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
so, if you guys are looking to hire, then it provides a great opportunity for that because like I found this lady and she's awesome. And she has that great experience in the field in the exact business that we're running. So it provides an opportunity there. There's probably a lot of great people that had to, get laid off and stuff. But anyways, I was very thankful I found her and she wanted to work in real estate. She was super excited to be working back in real estate. So that was one of the main reasons I hired her. And she
she
wanted
was
to put in her two
bilingual
weeks.
too, right?
Yeah, she's bilingual too, so it's just like
Yeah,
green flags everywhere. But
double win. Yeah,
yeah, Yeah, but she was going to put in her 2 week notice, just to be respectful to them. So I was like, totally understand. And we were slated to start at the end of this week, end of this month, I think on the 29th or 30th. But she told me that when she reached out to them to put in their 2 week notice, they're like, "Oh, it's okay. You can just stop." And so that was a win for me and for her. She said she wasn't enjoying like the company culture there, and she wasn't enjoying the job and stuff like that. So that was awesome. And I got to start with her, 2 weeks sooner than I was anticipating. And she's just been jumping in and crushing it already in only 2 days. So that was awesome. And then another win this week was we sold a property in Hope Mills, and this was a deal where we used investor base, and it was a huge win there because when we contracted this property, I kind of took a risk, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to consciously do that more this year, and I really don't want to let sellers down and back out of contracts. I'm trying to obviously reduce that also, but I noticed on particular properties last year I was like being a little bit too conservative on my numbers, and we are missing out on deals because one thing Matt Larson talks about that I recommend everyone do is these properties that you are offering on, and maybe you're like 20 or 30 grand apart. Check back like in a month or two and see what happened. And I did that, and a lot of them sold. And a lot of them sold for the exact asking price that the seller was asking. And as most people know, when you're looking on a property, like an assignment fee won't show. So, like for example, if we contract a property for 100, sell it for 120, on Zillow, it's going to say that it sold for 100 because the assignment fee doesn't register as like a closing. And so what I realized is that probably a lot of these wholesalers just had better buyers than me. They locked up what the seller was asking, and then they sold it and probably made more. And so I was like, man, that hurts. And it was a lot
Wow.
of deals. It wasn't like one or two deals. It was 10 to 20 deals that I definitely missed out on. And
Wow.
so just that, was a whole business in itself, just closing 10 to 20 deals a year. So I was like, man, so I'm really trying to put a focus on that this year. And this is a long-winded way of saying that it worked out on this property. But at first I thought it was a major fail. So we contracted this property. We offered 170. So I ran my initial numbers. I was like, 170 is the max we can do. And so we offered 170, and the dude was like, I have an offer for 175. And sometimes sellers are just blowing smoke with that. But
Yeah.
he did prove that he had offer 175, and whether or not that company was legit, whatever. But he was like, we were like, well, we're not going to get into a bidding war. Like, what number we get it done for you today? He was like 180, and I was like, man, like coming up 10 grand, like I don't know if I want to do that. But this property was a newer property, so I put in criteria for myself and for my team on when we want to kind of take that gamble. And particularly, it's like newer homes. I don't want to do this
Yeah.
on a 1900s home. I don't want to do this on a 2 bed, 1 bath home, for example. Like I want to do this on a standard like starter type home because those are the biggest market for those homes. So this one checked all the boxes. It was a newer home, 2011 build, 3 bed, 2 bath with a garage. So just like perfect starter home in pretty decent shape. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. And so we did that. And we sent it out to our buyers, and just everyone was coming in like exactly the same 175, 175, 175. And I was like,
Mm.
man, because we're at a contract of 180. So I was like, man, like I
Yeah.
would,
Ouch.
so it like justified me coming at 170 initially, because when buyers are coming at 175, you can probably squeak those guys up to 180. At least one of them will probably come up. And so I was like, man, at 170, I would have, had an easy 10K deal, but they just kept coming in 175. I had a few low balls, the 160s and stuff, but I was like, man. And so then I reached out and worked on investor base, and I found this dude, and he offered 186 right off the bat. And I was like, okay, so at least that's like a profitable deal. At least we can, close it at 186. I was like, okay, cool. And then I had a few more people interested from investor base, and he was my highest offer, like without seeing the property. And so then I sent him and a few other people out that were interested to actually, go walk through the house. And then he came back and he was like, just saw it. I'm interested. What number gets this done today? And I was like, cool. And so I just told him like 192.5. We were asking 195 for it. I was like, I'll come down to 192.5. And long story short, he came up to 190, 19500. And so we ended up making 10,500 on this deal. And I thought it was a total fail initially, but it was one of those
Yeah.
things where like I
You could
said,
have said no to the seller. Yeah.
yeah, I could have just said no, and then I could have looked at a couple months, and it probably would have been closed. And so in this case, I ended up making 10,000 on it. And like I said, if I could just get 10 or 20 of those that I missed out on last year, at 10,000 a pop, that's another 100 to 200,000. So I'm really excited about that. It's obviously they're not all going to work out. Some of them will probably fail, but this one did. And so it's a testament to investor base. We've talked about that before, but if you guys
Yeah.
haven't signed up for it, I definitely recommend it. That's not the first time this has happened. It happened to me a couple times last year, where all of my like buyers that I already know were offering a certain kind of average of prices, and then investor-based buyers ended up offering more. So yeah, so in this case, that was a $15,000 spread in terms of my best buyer internally, like the buyer that I already have on my list versus the best investor-based buyer. So that's awesome. And that just in itself, like, I don't know the math, but just a $10,000 deal pays for investor base for probably a couple of years because they're 250 a month. So that's a huge win there.
Hey, 250? I thought they were 150.
No, they're 250. Your first month is 150, but then they're 250.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I still think it's worth it. And also, they're adding a bunch of cool new features. And like Daniel, the founder, is very open to feedback and stuff. So that's super cool. But they're
Yeah.
adding like they're really trying to be a competitor to Investor Lift. And so very soon they're going to be rolling out a deal page where you can literally post your deals on their site, and it's going to become pretty much Investor Lift for $250 a month instead of whatever they're charging, which is probably I think like 10x. I think 10x, 10 times that amount. So. But yeah, so I wanted to kind of do that deal story and everything, just encourage everyone that even
That's
though,
great. That's a great tip, really, because I mean I've done the same thing. When the market went south, we got more conservative with our underwriting. We're like, no, we're not. No, 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 no. But what you're saying there is like, take a little chance. Like some of these things, and I always try and ask the sellers, like, is there something I'm missing? Is there something I don't know about this property? I like sometimes they actually, most of the time it's just like, well, my property is solid gold and it's worth more than any other house in the
yeah,
neighborhood, right? But every once in a while, it's like, no, dude, there's a subdivision coming in over here or whatever it is, and they do know something that's, oh,
yeah,
well, thanks for that information, and then you can actually, so like what, 5% of the time the seller might give you something of like something you're really missing that would add value to their house. Probably 90% of the time they're just blowing smoke and just feel like their property is worth what they want it to be worth. But
yeah, for
anyway,
sure.
that's a great tip. Great point. Appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna keep trying it. I'll let you know how it goes. But like I said, this is not something where I'm just like blanket trying to offer way more money to get offers accepted, even though Matt Larson kind of does recommend that. But but that is
Yeah,
that
he
is a
says
good
buy
point.
some
Like,
more.
yeah, like if you guys are one thing that we got from him is, oh, and I'll also make this announcement just real quick. His deal lab went up to 97 or $99 a month. But
99. Yeah,
yeah, but my dad got a referral code. I believe it knocks off $25 off that price. So if you guys want to sign up, you can we'll put that in the description.
it's
But
just
I
off
just
the
wanted to
first
mention
month.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to mention that because we keep talking about Matt Larson here. But one of the things he says that I think is great is that if you're not getting the contracts that you want consistently, like week after week, before you like blame your sales team, look at your actual offers. And so, that's one of the things that I took from him, and he kind of hammers it home every week. And so I did this experiment where I looked back and saw what these properties sold for, and that reinforced it. And then now that's what I do. So every week I'll kind of just look at all the offers we've made, and I'll see, okay, I'll just compare the asking price versus our max offer that I listed. And I'll say, okay, how close are we here? If we're 20, 30 grand apart, I'll go in there and actually recomp it and see, can we come up that 5, 10, even 20,000 and try to make a deal? And so I would definitely
yeah,
encourage you guys to do that. But like I said, especially do it on the properties that would be easier to sell. So don't do it on these, super old homes or super messed up homes. I would do it on those 3-bed, 2-bath kind of like starter homes that everyone wants to buy. So yeah, but hopefully that helps people. But I'll jump into
yeah.
the rest of my stuff. So other stuff this week, we closed one in Gastonia. That was awesome. Um, we ended up double
Nice.
closing that one because thank you. But we ended up double closing that one because one of my previous team members kind of um, I don't know. I don't want to blame him, but he did kind of put the sellers on edge a little bit because he mentioned that we were wholesaling the property to them. And so that kind of put them on edge a little bit. So we just ended up closing on it and then reselling it. But
Which ends up costing you another grand to 1,500, depending on the lawyer.
yeah, it was about $1,500. So that was a bummer, but that's okay. We still a huge win to close the deal. And one thing I wanted to share with you is that I sold this deal to New Western, and it's because I don't do as many deals in this market. This was in Gastonia, North Carolina, towards Charlotte. And
Yeah,
so one of the things that's funny is that the New Western that works in Charlotte, like I work with a guy named Hunter, but the New Western, like Hunter and the rest of the team there, they are just like so much better than the other New Western in the Raleigh area. It's so interesting because like I've only done a handful of deals with them because I really don't market out that way as much. I kind of stop in the Greensboro area, but they're just so much better. And every time I've had a closing with them, it's closes on the day it's supposed to close, and there's like no weird surprises and no
They
like
must
two
have a
week
better
delays.
office culture there or something. Like
Yeah,
their just the culture of their team is better over there.
yeah.
Because
So
in
I want to
Raleigh,
give it
people keep falling off, right? You get a new rep every once in a while. Like people just keep rotating through. Always
exactly.
new.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with Hunter, I think I've been working with him for 3 years now. One of the guys I previously worked with, he moved to Florida and opened up a new Western office in Jacksonville. And so at least he didn't leave the company like a lot of people do in the
Yeah,
other offices. But yeah, I think Hunter's been there for 3 years now. I've been working with him and just want to give a shout out to them. If anyone's in North Carolina, they're like, it's just a total different experience working with that Charlotte office versus some of the other locations in North Carolina that I've worked with. And so New Western is not all bad, and this one was a very smooth closing, and it was despite like we did have some weird issues with this one because the house was completely gutted, and so the county literally called the buyer the day before closing, and they were like, oh, by the way, like we're planning to put a condemnation notice on this property in the next 90 days if you don't fix it up because it's like it's just sitting there and it's gutted, and so some buyers might just freak out, but this my friend Hunter, he just smoothed it over and we closed the next day, even with that kind of wrench being thrown in the mix. So that was awesome. But just wanted to shout out to them. Um, and
nice.
then and then we got 3 contracts this week also, so that was great. Um, thank you. And yeah, that's pretty much our week. So I think I did enough deal breakdowns and everything, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's great stuff. That's great, and it's nice to be able to say some nice things about New Western also because we have said a lot of bad things about them.
Yeah,
But it's nice to know that some offices are working better than others. So you might be in a different part of the country and have a completely different experience with them. I know there
for
are people
sure.
in the Raleigh real estate investing community because I've attended RIA meetings and stuff, and I know there are people in that community who just think that New Western is the evil empire and just think
Yep.
they're horrible. So they have
Yep.
they have burned some bridges or caused some problems for people to make them very passionately against New Western. I've seen it, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're all bad, and you can still do deals with them. So that's good to hear some positive stuff. They are the biggest wholesaler in America, as far as I know.
Yeah, by far.
So God bless them for building that huge wholesaling business. Hopefully they're profitable. I think the guys who started it are very profitable and doing well.
Yeah.
Um, all right, I'm going to look at my notes here, what I wrote down. I had a few things that I wrote down. I did do a little breakdown on one that we closed this week, so I'll do that and just talk a little bit about KPIs and stuff. So we
Awesome.
closed two this week, this past week, which is great. So I guess I can ring the bell for myself. Two closed,
Yeah.
and both of those were sold to the same buyer, Jasper, the one we were texting about this week. He made money on our head on both those. God
Yeah.
bless him. And he's making money doing deals. So and then I'll just run through the other KPIs and I'll come back to breaking these down a little bit. So we got one contract this week. It was a mobile home, which is fun. We get some we I think people who've listened know that we do a lot of land. My business does more land than Jasper does. He only does it on rare occasions, but we do more land than houses, and we market for land. So oftentimes we'll get a mobile home when we're marketing for land because some of these I don't know why they show up in there. They're like a vacant lot. Somebody put a mobile home on it, but it's always a fun bonus for us because we usually can sell those more easily a lot of times. So we got a contract on mobile home. And I just made a note here. The lead came in on December 20th on a land campaign, and then we got the contract on January 14th. So just about 2 to 3 weeks, 3 weeks after when you figure Christmas, it took us about three
Mhm.
weeks to get that contract. So that's a nice one when you can just get a lead, contact the seller, make them an offer, and get a deal. We
Yeah.
didn't sell it week, so our inventory has been a little bit low, and that's partly due to staffing woes, which we're probably not going to go deep into hiring on this podcast. We talk about it a lot recently, but um, anyway, I don't need to assign any blame. We got 0 sold. We had 47 leads, 37 offers. So that's a nice volume for us, just as far as what we normally do. The leads will probably come up. We're working on some lead gen channels, but I'm going to give you a brief lead breakdown too, just by category. Out of those 47 leads, 35 were from SMS, and we're using Smarter Contact for our SMS marketing. And then we had 8 from propertyleads.com, which is brand new for us, and a tip from Jasper. So thank you, Jasper.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
8 propertyleads.com leads, and we have one verbal agreement on one of those deals. We're still looking into it a little bit because there are like 6 people who need to sign. So we're making sure we actually want to do it, but they're ready to sell. So,
Did you get 8 just from this week from them?
well, you referred that to me. I just started like in the last, I think it's maybe been a week and a half. We've had 8 leads. Yeah.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. I know. I know. It's been like, whoa, more leads, more leads. They're just piling in. I get a
That's
text
great.
alert, and then I get an email alert, and now we have it synced with our CRM, so they're just popping into CRM as a lead with the lead source already marked. So that's cool
Yeah, that's
because I
great,
just
man.
put this up on the CRM, and they're in there. And then we had 4 leads from our in-house cold caller. We have a cold caller that we hired, and then we signed up for this smarter contact power dialer, and it's been a shit show. Pardon my language, but so she's been doing part-time cold calling and also helping with some admin and also helping with some property analysis since we let go of one of our acquisitions people. So she's been sort of a Jackie of all trades and doing just part-time cold calling, but she brought in 4 leads this week for us too.
Nice.
So that's how the lead sources round out. And then I'll just touch on the closed deals here. We had one of these I've talked about the last few episodes. It was a deal that had an estate that had not been filed. And
Hmm.
so just looking at the notes on this, I went through our CRM. We got this lead on May 22nd of last year. We got it under contract on May 29th of last year, and then we sold it on June 12th of last year, and we just closed it this past week. So
Mm.
that's like a solid 6 months from sold to closed,
Yeah.
and credit to the buyer for hanging out on that one. But he knew he was making a big profit on top of us. That's why he hung out. But so why did it take so long to close? It was the estate issue and it was seller cooperation issues. The seller's in California. So as far as, talking about leads, when you're looking at leads, out of state sellers are great. Like we contracted that very fast, as you heard from earlier. He was ready. He inherited it and he was ready to get rid of it. Right. So
Hmm.
that's why lists for out of state people who inherited properties can often be good. But anyway, he was not super cooperative. He was kind of hit or miss with communication. And then when he found out we had to do the estate and run it through the estate, he didn't want to pay the money for that. So then we said, hey, how about if you pay $500 and we'll pay the rest? Because he was saying he was broke and everything. So estate fees were 2,800, I think, ended up being. So he paid 500 of that. And then we got the buyer to split the other half of those fees with us. So that was good. That was Jasper, your suggestion. So thanks for suggesting that. So it
Yeah.
didn't end up costing us a whole lot of money. But then he was kind of dragging his feet with the process too, with just signing stuff for the state attorney, getting paperwork back, being available for a mobile notary when we needed him to be available. And then at one point he said, "I just can't do this. I'm still grieving from my father who passed, and I'm too busy. I'm just going to have to walk away from this." And that's when we did
Yeah.
the threatening letter that we've talked about. This is one of the new strategies Jasper and I implemented last year of just like, instead of going to a lawyer and filing a case and all this stuff, which you're probably never going to win, and you're just going to spend money on a lawyer, you just send a letter that says, hey, you signed a legally binding contract with us. We do have the option to pursue legal action in this matter. Please give us a call so we can resolve this. We'd much rather close this deal as we agreed to, something like that. That's what mine says, something like that.
Yeah.
So he responded to that and he was like, oh, I don't want you guys to sue me. I'm just a little guy, just, tell me what I need to do. And we are like, dude, we never wanted to sue you. We just, wanted to close this deal like we agreed to. So anyway, he
Yeah.
came back on board, but he was still in and out, and then when we got all the way down to closing, it was still like the delays. He's in California. He takes care of his grandkids, blah, blah, blah. And then we get everything ready to close in the final documents and he executed them. And then we find out that he got married between the time we started this process and the closing. So we had to send more documents out for his new wife to sign and him to re-sign. Yeah.
Wow.
Because in North Carolina, I don't know which state you're working in if you're listening, but in North Carolina, even if your spouse is not on the title, they still have to sign on any transactions for
Yeah.
property. So anyway, at the end of the day, we did close it. And the cherry on top is that after closing, he left us a 5-star review, the seller.
That's great.
And talked about we helped him out and walked him through. And like, if you ever want to sell a property and you're out of state, I recommend this company. So,
That's
you
awesome.
know, that's a win. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll touch on the other one briefly. I won't go as in depth on this one, but this one was also a vacant lot, and this one we sold very quickly again because we have this buyer who's buying a lot of property in this area, both houses and lots, and sold it fast. And then the seller ghosted us for a period of weeks, and she told us she had a better offer and she was going to go with them. She was mad because um, this is a lawyer screw up, and this is where, Jasper, when you're talking about providers, the lawyer told us that she was going to have to get the ex-husband. Sorry, my dog's hearing somebody else barking. She's barking. The lawyer did the title work and said, "Oh, you're going to have to get your ex-husband to sign something for us to be able to do this." And she got really pissed, and she was like, "I'm going to go with this other offer." And then I pushed back with the lawyer and said, "Hey, is there another way around this? Is there another way we could do this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I found another title company that could actually do this." And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you do that in the first place?" Because it chased our seller away, and we almost lost the deal. And then we had to do the threatening letter with her and call her 100 times and text her 100 times. And I think probably what happened is that the other wholesaler wasn't able to do the deal, or they were flaky. She came back to us. She wanted another $1,000 because they offered her $1,000 more than we did, according to her. And we were just like, okay, we'll pay the extra $1,000 if you can close, and cooperate. And so she did. Once we said we'd give her the extra $1,000 and we signed the addendum on that, she did move forward with us fairly expediently. But then right at closing, for some reason, she wouldn't sign the final HUD, and she said she would do it, later in the day or whatever. And so we got the buyer, and the buyer flipped our buyer wholesaled this to another buyer. And so our buyer and the buyer they wholesaled it to were freaking out because it's like everything's been signed since yesterday and we still are not recorded what's going on. And it was because this seller was like taking her time. I don't know if she was still talking to somebody else or if she just was really busy like she said she was. But finally, after we called her and texted her multiple times throughout the day, at the end of the day after we were supposed to close, she signed the final HUD and we closed it. So that's the brief synopsis of that one. And that is, I
Wow.
think, my overall summary of the business. I guess the one gain you talked about gains, the big gain is we closed 2 deals and we made a decent profit on them. I think we made like 23 or 24 on the 2 deals total. And so that puts us way ahead of what we did in January of 2024, which I'm grateful for because we had a really
Yeah.
terrible January of 2024. We closed 2 deals in January of 2024, but one was we just closed it to help out one or both parties, and it was like no money, like 3 grand. The other one was an owner finance deal, which we make money on long term, but we didn't really put any money in the bank on it.
Right.
So it was really, really bad January last year. And so I'm very grateful to have 2 closed already. And it's mid-month. We still have another couple of weeks to close deals. So that's my victory or gain
Yeah.
for business. But yeah, those are my stories. So inspired by you, Jasper, the way you break down your deals. So I was trying to just get a little bit more meat on the bone of a closed deal for people who are listening. And
Yeah, I
it
love
is
it.
yeah, it's kind of fun to look back and see all the twists and turns that happen in a deal. Because
Yeah.
I forget sometimes once they're closed, it's just like a relief and the money comes in and you're like, great.
Yeah, I know.
But so then after this, we've looked at all the deals and the numbers and stuff. Let's shift gears into tools and tips, which we normally do every week. Just check in about what's been working for us as far as tools we're using in our real estate investing businesses and any tips or anything that we've come across this week that's helped. So you got some tools and tips, Jasper?
Um, I mean, I can just kind of go over the
You
ones I
already
always
shared
share.
investing base.
Yeah,
Well, you don't
I
have to.
can. Okay. Well, yeah, I
I've
mean,
got stuff.
I would reshare investor base. Whether you're doing just one deal a month or more than that, I think it's super valuable for both sides of the transaction, whether it's helping, get a second kind of opinion on comping your deals to come up with offers, or whether it's actually selling your deals. I think that's definitely worth it for everyone, no matter what stage you're at. Second, easy text. I love that one. I've mentioned that
Yeah.
before, but if you do have a buyer's list, it's totally worth it. So if you're just getting started, maybe you don't have a buyer's list, don't worry about it. But if you have at least a few hundred people on your buyer's list, then it's much more effective than emailing. So I would definitely recommend easy text. And it's just like the word says, it's very easy to set up and very easy to use. So I really enjoyed using that one. And then, well, I can mention PropWire because actually the deal I got this week that we closed was from PropWire. And so I did like a little breakdown on Facebook, but um, that deal technically only cost us $13.54. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So so that's pretty cool. I mean, the prop wire is free, and so that's where I got the data, and then just skip tracing it is where that cost comes in, 13.54. And if I broke it down even more, it's cheaper than that because it's only one phone number that I needed. But that was just the total cost for the whole campaign because the data was free for PropWire. So I just purchased a vacant list or vacant houses list, and I purchased for the whole state of North Carolina, or not purchased, but I got it from PropWire, and then just skip trace it with direct skip. That's where that 13.54 came in. And then, we text and cold call it. So that's another few $100 if you want to add labor and stuff in. But still pretty cool to think about that just like the direct
Yeah.
cost was only $13 to get a closed deal. So it's pretty cool. But
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's a
So
great tip for if you're starting off on a shoestring with your business and you don't have a lot of cash to throw in right away. Like PropWire is basically PropStream, but it's free. And PropStream costs, I think they start off at 130 or 140, and then you have to add team members, but we pay like
yeah.
200 a month. So PropWire is free data. People will say that the data is going to be older and it's not going to be as effective, and that's probably true. But Jasper just closed the deal out of it, or got a deal out of it. So you can
Yeah.
get deals. I mean, I used PropStream data for quite a while before I switched to other data sources, and I was closing deals from it. So it's similar. People say the same thing about PropStream, is that the data is too old for it to be really effective. That's what Matt Larson hates PropStream, and he says that you shouldn't use their data because it's too old and you're not going to get deals. But you
Yeah.
can get deals. You can get deals from PropWire and PropStream, and especially if you're starting off and you don't have a budget for spending money on buying lists and stuff, definitely check it out. And it's the
Yeah.
user interface is really easy too. I really like it's very clean and easy to use compared to PropStream. PropStream's a little bit of an older website and a little bit clunkier.
Yeah. I
Uh,
agree. I like PropWire better in terms of how it looks for sure.
yeah, it's more of a 21st century website. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think those would be my three main tools. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you do have the funds, definitely kind of graduate to buying your data. I think it's always going to be a little bit better quality. But having said that, we use PropWire every single month for a small number of lists. So our main strategy that I think I mentioned before, but the neighborhood list strategy, we use PropWire for that every single month. And basically that means every single month, my awesome virtual assistant, so I don't have to do it anymore. He does it, and he just does every single contract and every single closed deal that we got from that past month. He goes and does it for every single one, and all he does is draw a circle around the whole neighborhood. So where we got the property, he'll draw like maybe a mile or maybe 2 mile radius around that whole property, and then we'll just buy all that data, skip trace it, and market to those people. And I should pull the exact data from last year, but we closed
except
a
you're not buying the data, you're just grabbing the data.
yeah, sorry. I keep saying buying, but yeah, it's free on PropWire. And so we're downloading the data on there. And like I said, I don't have the data in front of me, but it was over 5 deals that we closed from that. And it's essentially free doing that. So you're just paying for skip tracing, which is, like I shared, it's like $10, $10 to $20 to do a skip trace usually, or maybe less, depending on the size of the list.
And if you're really trying to be on a shoestring, then you can jump on like True People Search or That's Them or something like that, and you can often find people that way. But it's very
Yeah.
labor intensive, but you could do it that way.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just wanted to give a testament to that. And like you said, with PropStream, like these data sources might be at like the bottom of the food chain, but they still work. You can still get deals
Yeah,
from them. So,
yeah,
if you're just starting out, definitely try out PropWire first because it's free, and then you could always try PropStream and some of the other ones in the future. So,
yeah.
yeah,
And PropStream has other features, that are nice, comping and stuff. But
yeah,
we don't. That's not our primary reason for using PropStream. We don't use it for the data. We use it for comping and getting property information and stuff.
yeah,
Uh, okay, well, I'll just piggyback on some of your stuff. Deal Lab you mentioned earlier, Jasper, and we've talked about this. I just want everybody to know we don't get. Well, actually, now if you use our affiliate code, we get a few dollars. We get $18. So we're not in it for the money. I'm referring Deal Lab. We're recommending it because it's the most value for your dollar that I can think of or that I've experienced. Jasper and I have spent thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on masterminds and coaching groups, and this is now $99 a month. And so you figure that's like $25 a week, and that includes Matt doing a mastermind session where you get to sit in with him live and ask questions, and he goes over a topic that has to do with wholesaling. He's been doing it for 18 years and he's really good at it and knows his stuff. And then you also get all the catalog of the back episodes that he's done, and then you get tools and resources that he's got in that back office, they call it, I think. And you get, he's got scripts in there, he's got templates, he's got all this stuff. So even if you just joined for 1 month and learn some stuff and got some templates and stuff, I mean, I hopefully Matt probably wouldn't want to hear me say that, but it'd still be worth it, because with our affiliate code, you can join for $75 for the first month and then 99 thereafter. So you could join for a month and see if you like it. Again, we do get a few bucks, but we're not recommending it because of the money. We're recommending it because we're trying to help people. And I think that's the best bang for your buck if you're starting out and trying to learn. So then there's other tools. Let's see what else I wrote down here. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I was just going to check back in on Just Call because we are sort of being the guinea pig for that for Jasper and for other people. So
Yeah.
Just Call is replacing smartphone, which is our day-to-day business phone system for our team, with Just Call. And it's good. The integration with Podio, after now, I think about 2 weeks, maybe a little less than 2 weeks, the integration with Podio has been a little bit buggy. We've been having a little bit of trouble with call logs and stuff like that. It's going to get ironed out, and the development team is on it, but it's a fairly new software. And so there's still some stuff, that they're having trouble with. But it's got a lot of great features, and I'm sticking with it. I'm pretty excited about the upside on it. And I have faith because the development team has been super responsive to my operations manager and jumping on calls with him and addressing his concerns and stuff. So they really want to get it right. And then, yeah, so the call flows on that, I made a couple notes here. Call flows, if you've used smartphone and you've done like the call flows or the SMS flows, I think you've got more options here on Just Call. You get like, you can have an AI receptionist route calls, answer calls, and take questions and route calls. You can also create groups and teams like you can in a smartphone, but there just seems to be more options and more functionality when I look at that dashboard. I can't go into a ton of detail because off the top of my head. They have an SMS signature, which is really nice because with smartphone, I would be texting a seller and I would type my name and my company name and stuff at the bottom, like an email signature, because I feel like that reinforces for the person you're talking to who you are, and they can look you up if they want to look you up. And I just feel like it's a professional thing to do. So I was always doing that manually in smartphone, and they have an option to do that. You can put a signature on your SMS with your information, which is kind of cool. And what else do we have for Just Call? I think that's all the notes I have right now. It's working great. Like the dialer portion of it is awesome, and it works very similarly to smartphone. You call somebody and then you have the option to text them. If they don't answer, you can mark the result of the call. You can leave a call note that gets pushed to your CRM, with the information. And yeah, I think it basically functions very similarly to smartphone, maybe with a couple extra features again, because you can get AI analysis of your calls, all the calls by team member, and how many calls were made, call duration by individual call. If a call is connected and you have a recording, they'll analyze the call and tell you, give you some bullet points on calls to action and things like that. Ask you if you want to schedule a follow-up call. I think you can schedule a follow-up call within the dialer also. So there's some pretty cool stuff like that in there. Anyway, I would say, it's a good thing if you don't have smartphone or Just Call and you're thinking about a dialer, I'd recommend it, and that's for day-to-day business. They do have a bulk dialer too, I believe, but I haven't looked into that. And if you're on smartphone and switching over, I would just, make sure the integrations are solid. And it was really easy to set up the integration, but then we were just having some bugs with how the data is being pushed mainly with the call logs and the SMS logs. So I think that's going to be ironed out this week. Propertyleads.com. We mentioned this earlier, but it's a pay-per-lead website that Jasper recommended on a previous podcast. So we've been trying it out. the leads, we're paying $125 to $175 per lead right now. So that might seem like a lot, but when you talk about some of the money we spend on direct mail or SMS or cold calling, it's really not, especially if you're closing deals or getting contracts. It looks like, we already have 1 out of 8 turning into a contract. So that's pretty good. And then another thing I'll mention about property leads is they do give you the option to ask for a refund for leads that don't pan out. And so I've already requested 2 refunds and had those issued to me. So I appreciate that. One was listed on the MLS and they had pushed it to us. And that's one of the reasons they'll give you a refund. And the other one, 2 of us talked to the seller and he said, I'm not selling this property. It's off the market. And so that's a pretty dead lead that they gave us, and they did refund us on that. And I think that's about it. I'm we're talking about hiring here, so some people maybe are looking to hire their first person or wondering where we are hiring people. So I just want to mention Online Jobs PH, as in Philippines. That will cost you what, $69, Jasper, a month?
Yeah.
And you can cancel anytime. So you can go on there, pay $69, do a round of posts and interviews and hire people, and then cancel it. They don't charge you, annually or anything like that. So you get some really good Filipino candidates on there. I've hired a few people from there, and it's a good site. I recommend it. Upwork, you can hire for free on Upwork. I find the quality is a little bit less than Online Jobs PH, but you do get people from all over the world. And the interface is not as easy to use for me either on Upwork. And then my operations guy has some Facebook groups where people are looking for jobs that he uses. So you can do that. That's free, right? Upwork is free. And then Jasper, you just used somewhere and you've had a great experience so far with them. That's expensive. That's on the high end of hiring. You have to pay a fee to start, and then a placement fee, right, on that. And then Rapid Assistance is similar. You have to, give them a chunk of money, give them a deposit up front for them to find you somebody. So there are a few other businesses like that, but that's more the higher end if you have more money to spend. And then I would say Rapid Assistance also has you can do a week-to-week cold caller with Rapid Assistance, which is, I think, pretty cool if you're just starting out and you don't have a big budget and you want to test cold calling. Like, you can pay, I think, like $375 a week, give them a list, and they'll just call all your numbers for a week. And then if you want to continue for another week, you can roll it over. So I think that's a pretty cool idea, because then you're not having to set up a dialer for yourself and everything else. You just pull a list, skip trace it, send it to them. They do all the calls, send you the leads. So if you have a little bit of a budget, that might be a good way to start. Anything else about the hiring tools or platforms, Jasper?
No, I think you covered it all. If you are looking for someone who's like more on a project basis, I've had good luck also with Fiverr for like one-time projects. But as far as long-term employees, I don't think that's a great place to look. But yeah, I think you covered all the rest. I have noticed also, just in like your standard real estate groups where you might be posting deals, looking for buyers, stuff like that. I've noticed that some people post in there when they might be letting go of staff. So if you just get in those groups, like I saw a post this week, was actually after I already hired my person, but I saw a post this week where this person was like, kind of downsizing their business. Some people have definitely kind of been closing down and slowing down their real estate businesses over these past couple of years. And this person said that they were looking to kind of rehome 2 transaction coordinators that have been working with them for years. And so had I not just found this person, I would have probably took her up on that. But I would just say, like you already mentioned, Facebook groups in terms of, I think, like virtual assistants that might be looking, but also in those real estate groups. I think if you just made a post like, I'm looking for a virtual assistant, is anyone possibly letting go of someone? I think you probably find people that way too. So that's just one thing I saw this week.
That's a great tip, because like you said, some people are downsizing and scaling back. So you might get some really quality people with great training without having to go through the hassle of filtering, which we were talking about offline. Like, just part of the hiring is the filtering issue.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, and one more. Also, I interviewed with one company on Monday this week, and they're solid. So I might try them out in the future. It's called Riva Global, and I've heard of them on a few podcasts, but I've never talked to them before. So they're basically like an agency. And so it's kind of similar to Matt Larson, but you don't have to pay a big like deposit up front. Their deposit's just $500. And so that's a one-time fee, probably $500. And the cool thing about them also is that once you hire one person from them, that's like really truly a one-time fee. So let's say you hire one employee, you pay them $500, but if you want to hire another one, you don't have to pay another $500. So that's kind of cool. And so for them,
But you pay them a placement fee.
yeah, just that $500. But like I said, it's just the first time employee that you hire with them. And then if you
Yeah.
were to hire a second one, you wouldn't have to pay 500 again. You just pay the hourly rate. And so they come pre-trained. And for the position that I was looking for was follow-up specialist, and they charge, I believe it was 10.50 or 10.95, so 10 or $11 an hour for that position. And you have a customer success manager assigned to you, and they manage the VA, but he still works for you. So you pay them, they pay the VA. So it's very similar to Rapid Assistance, but it seems like a little bit more of a affordable option as opposed to Rapid Assistance.
So there, it's Reva, REVA.
Yeah, REVA Global. So if you just Google that, it'll pop up. But yeah, they seem pretty solid. So I might try them out later this year.
Cool. Yeah, I might check them out too. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've shared what's working with us, it's time to turn to questions and comments and see what's on people's mind who are watching and listening.
All right.
So let's see what we got here. And this is kind of a long episode already, so I don't know how deep we want to go into some of this stuff, but we got, can you please make a video outlining your process? What happens when a deal gets into your pipeline? Who on the team qualifies? Who does the closing, etc.? So that's one. And then the deal lab price we already touched on. And then we had coaching too, because we had questions about coaching. So do we want to, how far do we want to go into this right now? Let's see where we're at. Can we see how long this podcast is? I don't
Well,
know.
let's just answer the first one. I think we could both answer that pretty quickly.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Only question though, do you think, were they saying a deal comes into our system? Like how do we do transaction
I'll
coordination, or
read the
like a
words
lead?
again. Let's see. The words that are written down is, can you please make a video outlining your process? What happens when a deal gets into your pipeline? Who on the team qualifies? Who does the closing, etc.?
Okay. I'm taking that as what happens when a lead comes into your system. Because once a deal comes into our system, it's already been signed, and then we're just, kind of babysitting it to close. So I would do it on the lead side of things. So when a lead comes in, we have a stage in our Podio which is called new untouched. That's where all the leads come in first, and it's just what it means, which is just new, and untouched means not called yet. And so what we do is it's pretty much all hands on. Like no leads in my system are assigned to any one person. And so as soon as the lead comes in, it's free for all. Anyone can call them. How I do it on my team is that my acquisition just directly calls those people, so there's no handoff or anything. So any new leads that comes in, I have 3 people on my sales team right now that are called acquisition, and so they all just will, whoever's available will call the new leads. And then if they can't reach them, we have a stage in our Podio which has 5 buttons, which is call attempt 1 through 5. And so that's just for internal tracking purposes, so that our team knows. And so they'll try to call them, they'll click the call attempt button 1 to let us know, okay, I tried them one time. And then they'll try them again, maybe like an hour later or something. We try to check on our new leads every hour. And so then they'll try them again. They'll click the call attempt button 2. And every time they click that button, it does send the seller a different text message, but it sends them an automated text message that tries to hopefully get them to call us back. And so anyways, that goes from 1 through 5. Once we've made 5 attempts, we move it to the next stage, which is called discovery in our CRM. But all that means is that we've called them 5 times, and now they're in discovery, which is just, I don't know, that's how my CRM came set up. But basically what the stage means to us is just that those people didn't answer after 5 times. And so we're trying to get them obviously back on the phone. But in that stage, now the acquisition doesn't touch that discovery stage. That's where my follow-up specialists are working every day and trying to revive those leads that haven't answered for us yet. So ideally they would answer before we call them 5 times, and then we just speak to them. But if not, then that's where they go. So, and then I guess the next part of the question was what happens after that. So like I said, the acquisition does everything from the qualifying to the closing and everything. We typically do a 2-call system, which is what we picked up from Matt Larson. But the first call is just to mainly build that rapport, find out a little bit more about the property, about their situation. And then once we have an interested lead, we move it to a stage which is called needs offer. And what that means is that we need to run numbers, provide an offer range for that property. And then once that's done, it goes back to the sales team and they try to actually present that offer and hopefully, close a deal. So I think that's pretty much answering the question. That's kind of how my system works. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So yeah, for us, it's very similar. I mean, we use Podio as well for our CRM. So our leads come in to CRM. Ours are called fresh leads. And so when it's a fresh lead, then an acquisitions person, right now there's just one because we just let one go, but an acquisitions person will call that fresh lead. Same way we have a similar thing in our Podio where it's contact 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When it hits 5, it goes into a follow-up sequence, which is an automated text follow-up sequence. So that's different than yours, Jasper. We don't have a follow-up specialist. We'll just have that automated text sequence going, because if somebody's is asking for an offer or whatever, expressing interest, and then they don't respond to 5 calls and texts, they're probably not that motivated. So then we just put
Yeah.
them into our SMS follow-up sequence. And then the way that works is we have different follow-up sequences that are automated in our Podio that will send a text at intervals, and we have them labeled like, cold. We have them by cold, warm, hot, whatever, ghosted seller. But each sequence will send a text at different intervals. So if
Mhm.
somebody's like, not responded, cold or whatever, it might be they send the cadence might be like one a week for a few weeks, and then one every 2 weeks, and then once a month. It might just taper down, and then if we get a response back in, then we'll talk to them. So that was now I feel like I'm losing the thread of what happened, what we're supposed to
Yeah.
be answering. What happens when a deal gets into your pipeline? Who on the team qualifies? Who does a closing? So, yeah. So on my team, our acquisitions team currently is an SMS specialist, an acquisitions closer slash manager. I've got one person who does a lot in acquisitions, and then we have a person who's part time working with helping with analysis and doing some cold calling and some intake also. So that call might be taken by our acquisitions lead person who is really good at dealing with sellers and has great rapport building skills. So she might talk to them, but if she's really busy, she might get the other person who's also good on the phone to do the intake, which is just like, the 4 pillars: timeline, condition, motivation, and price, right? Just trying to get people talking, build some rapport, find out more about the deal, what their motivation's like, see if you can get a price out of them. And then after that, same as you, Jasper, it gets offer needs to be sent is our next status, right? Once we've done the intake, and then that goes to, again, our acquisitions lead is going to either do that analysis, or she's going to farm that out to another person to do the analysis. And then once we determined our offer range and our max offer, that gets put into the seller lead card, and an offer gets sent to that person, and then a follow-up call happens. So we send our offers. We find out what the seller is like, how they want to receive an offer, if they want to receive it, verbally over the phone, if they want to receive it by email or SMS, and we'll send it. If some people want a snail mail offer because they're older and they don't do email, so we'll get the offer sent, we'll label how the offer was sent, and then that'll go into follow up. So once we are, pretty clear that they've received the offer, if it's snail mail, then we're calling in a few days. Hey, did you get this yet? If it's text or SMS, and we're following up right away. Hey, that offer was just sent over. Just want to make sure you got it. Got a minute to discuss, that kind of thing. And then that's the closer, right? And the closer would be our main acquisitions person at this point. We just let go of another person we had hired to assist her in that role, and he was primarily doing those follow-ups after the offer was sent. And we're looking to hire another person for that role. And I've been doing some of it currently because we fired the other guy. So I've been doing some offer follow-ups, which is kind of fun, in a way, because I get to talk to some sellers and see, kind of get the pulse of things. I get to work in the seller leads app and just see what needs to be tweaked or edited. I get to see what the acquisitions team is doing. But anyway, that's a sidebar. So I think that answers the same question, right? I think that covers everything. What happens when a deal
Yeah.
gets into your pipeline, who on the team qualifies, and who does the closing? So yeah, we have, like I said, we have 3 people. We'll have a 4th soon. So there'll be 2 closers, but 1 primary closer, and then 1 person who's sort of lead manager, managing all those leads and making sure they get follow-ups or intake calls or offer follow-ups, the offers go out, all that stuff. And then that person in our team is currently doing some of all of those jobs too. So they're overseeing the leads, but they're also engaged in that, and they're also engaged in list pulling and skip tracing and getting the lists to cold callers or SMS people.
Awesome. And who are you using for your offer letters? We use what's called letterstream.com. Just didn't know who you use.
For our offers,
Yeah. Is that just through your direct mail company, or do you use a different site?
We just we create the offers in Google Docs, and then we send them. If it's a text offer, we send it on our e-sign platform. We send an e-sign offer right away. Somebody might just sign one. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no. We use the e-sign also. I might be switching to PandaDoc, but we use DocuSign. But I just mentioned when the seller requests a physical snail mail offer, I was just
Oh,
we use letterstream.com. I didn't know if you use a different service.
yeah, we do use a different service, and right now the name just is not in my brain. Postal Methods. It's called Postal
Postal method.
Methods.
Okay,
Yours is called
nice.
LetterStream.
Yeah, letterstream.com. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's like $1 per. I'll write these down here for the show notes. Postal Methods and LetterStream.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you just upload your document to the platform, and then you tell it what you want it to do, send a letter, whatever, and it'll just mail a letter, mail a good old fashioned letter. Some people want it that way.
yeah,
We just got a contract when I was doing some of the stuff, dealing with sellers. I dealt with a really old school guy, and he just wanted a paper thing in the paper mail, so we sent it to
yeah.
him, and
Nice.
he sent it back, signed it, and sent it back to the PO box.
That's awesome.
But I think that's we covered. Well, we covered all the questions. We talked about Deal Lab coaching. We do coaching. Both of us do coaching individually. So if you are interested in real estate coaching, reach out to us. We can do a discovery call. Let us know if you have a preference of which guy you'd like to coach with, and yeah, we can just find out more about you and what you're trying to do, and see if we can help you.
Yeah,
And anything else you got there, Jasper? I guess that was it, right? Any comments on those?
yeah. No, I think that's awesome.
All right.
Thank you for the question and comments who did leave those comments. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
feel free to drop more questions and comments for the next episode.
Yep. And we'll leave you with a quote. And one I grabbed for today is, happiness is not a goal, it's a byproduct of a life well lived. That's Eleanor
Yeah,
Roosevelt. Day to day.
I love that.
And yeah. And as Jasper said, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them for us. You can find Jasper on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook too, LinkedIn. I Yeah, I guess those are the best places at this point. We do have a website too where you can find my contact info. I've got a hammer.com. But yeah, thanks for listening, and let us know what you think, and let us know how we can help.
Yeah, awesome.
And have a great week, everyone.